Short meeting, right, Larry?
We'll see. All right, I'd like to welcome everybody to the first Police Accountability Board meeting of October. Welcome to everybody watching. We'll start off with introductions. I'm Larry Knox, Chair of the PAB Board. Dr. Harrison. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry, I'm Bob Harrison, board member.
For the East, Reverend Nikoloff.
Yeah, I'm Reverend Matthew Nikoloff, representing the City Council South Chair.
Mr. Bosco.
Dwayne Bosco, acting manager and chief of investigations of PAB.
Thanks. Rabbi Settle.
Dora Settle, I'm the Northwest Council seat on the board.
Marina.
I am Marina Pacheco Walker, secretary to the board.
Daniel.
Good evening. I'm Daniel Cadet Sr., board member holding the PAB Alliance seat.
Ms. Brown.
Great evening, everyone. I am vice chair and am a PAB Alliance appointee and want to welcome all of you who've taken the time to come and join us. We appreciate your attention.
And Ms. Tucker.
Good evening, everyone. I am Danielle Tucker, and I am Seat 1 PABA.
Thank you, everybody. I'd like to thank Melanie and Alana, our interpreters, for tonight. We do expect Pastor Harvey. He did let us know he'd be late for the meeting, but is anticipating joining us later. All right, so we'll start off with minutes approval. We did have minutes sent out last week and again earlier this week from our September 15th meeting. So were there any changes, additions, questions about the minutes? I had one at the end. I think I was the one that moved to adjourn the meeting, and then Reverend Harvey, which he didn't need, seconded, although you don't need a second, but just for the number X for the on page 4 at the end.
Okay, I will make that correction.
Anybody else have any changes or additions? All right, and a motion to approve the minutes.
If there are no other corrections, I move that the minutes be approved.
Okay, a second for Mr. Nikoloff. All in favor? Approving the minutes?
I see Harrison, I see Nikoloff, I see Knox, I see Settle, I see Brown. Cadet, how do you vote? Aye. And Tucker, how do you vote?
Aye.
Okay, that's a unanimous approval.
Yeah. I had got a question from a couple of different people. Where can people go, Marina, just to find the minutes? I mean, this would be explained. As somebody asked me if, will they be in the YouTube minutes? I'm like, no, it's on the way. If you could just tell them where it's at for accessing the minutes.
Sure. If you visit rockpab.org, under the menu, all of our meetings are posted under news and events, under the events and meetings section. There you get direct links back to the YouTube videos as well as copies of the minutes.
Thank you, Marina. Send the link to Reverend Harvey again. All right. So yeah, we have all of our minutes. This will be up there shortly, and then going back further if people want to be able to review the minutes. All right, next on the agenda, we have staff report followed by the chair's report. So Mr. Bosco, if you can start off with our staff report, staff update.
Yeah. So as it stands right now, we've taken in 197 reports. 80 of those reports have been assigned. 49 notifications have gone out to RPD, letting them know the start of those investigations. RPD has provided responses to 32 of the source of information requests that have gone out. The last response coming in on September 28th. In addition to that, today, RPD provided one notification from PSS in regards to an investigation that has begun. So the investigation case from PSS is not included in the 197 reports taken in.
Is that the first time that we've received one from PSS?
This is the first one, yes. In addition to that, ride-alongs. Due to the state of emergency and ongoing violence, the ride-alongs, despite our requests to be done by officers that are not Captain Sweatman or Lieutenant Bellows or Lieutenant Ince, due to the nature of the state of emergency right now, the ride-alongs will continue to be with those three individuals. The next upcoming dates are October 11th, October 20th, and November 1st. If you haven't provided me with your waiver, please do so as soon as possible. I know that some individuals have signed up for one of those three dates. If you haven't signed up for one of those three dates, also do that as soon as possible. RPD training with PAB will continue next week. Thus far, we've had 2 of the 5 modules that have been completed over the last 2 weeks. The next one has been changed from Tuesday the 11th to Wednesday the 12th. Additionally, pursuant to Judge Villarano's decision, the open meetings law training, I attended that webinar on October 4th. I can provide you some of my notes, but I did set up a meeting, training session with the board and the assistant director from the New York State Committee on Open Meetings Law. That is scheduled for the 18th. I believe that I've only received response from 2 individuals that noted that date worked for them, but due to the time restraints provided by the order, I think we should take advantage of this date. So please, if you haven't already done so, plan on attending. I am clearing up the time, as I know most of the board schedule that evening trainings works best. I reiterated that to the assistant director and she's going to accommodate that, but I still need to work out the exact time.
Hey, Dwayne, we had a couple of hands.
Yes.
I did have a question too about it. If it's recorded, can we watch it? And still, would that count? And then Rabbi Sutter and Dr. Harvey after, if you have an answer for that.
It's a virtual hearing. This will not be in person. This will be done virtually. I can request that to be videotaped, and just I want to make sure that that attending a pre-recorded training session will comply with the order.
Okay, Rabbi Settle and Reverend Harvey.
Yeah, I was also just going to say that basically, since we have set aside the second and fourth Thursdays of every month for trainings, that if you could just ask them to provide a training one of those evenings, I think that would take care of the problem of everybody's different schedules.
Reverend Harvey.
I'm sorry for being late. I've been trying to get on to the link that you sent me, Larry. And Eileen had to send me a link that got me right on. I just want to ask you, Dwayne, not to repeat anything, but just tell me briefly, what is this invitation to?
The invitation I spoke about on October 18th?
Yes.
Yeah. So the invitation on October 18th is with a training session with the assistant director from the New York Committee on Open Meetings Law.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Dr. Harrison?
Just a comment. I read every now and then, and and I was reading something about executive sessions. I think it was in the open meetings area. And I ran across a statement that while the discussions are held in closed a closed session, the voting is done out of executive session. Are you?
Dwayne Bosco speaking. No, that's not accurate. So the voting can be done in executive session. What has to be made public is the nature of the vote, the count of the vote. That has to be made public. So the voting itself can be done within executive session, but the minutes have to reflect the nature of the vote and exactly what was voted on and the count of the vote.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions before Mr. Bosco continues? All right, go ahead, Dwayne.
All right. So the language access plan has been rewritten and revised. Language action plan has been submitted and is waiting for approval. If you haven't already taken a look at that, I can forward that over to you, but we're waiting on approval for that. Eyesight. We are still planning on going live with Eyesight on October 10th. We have run into additional difficulties with the system, and there were some trainings that were scheduled to take place this week that Eyesight had to back out of. So we're still working with Eyesight to get that cleared up, but they have not changed the date of October 10th as of yet.
Do you think them backing out kind of makes that less likely though, or?
I do think it makes it less likely. The initial or the soft launch on October 10th is obviously quickly approaching. And I should point out that even the date itself is Indigenous Peoples Day. So it was supposed to be for the next day, October 11th, which is Tuesday. But with the cancellation of the trainings today, and then there were trainings scheduled for tomorrow as well. Those have been canceled. So it makes it highly unlikely that we'll be able to meet the 11th as far as the soft launch is concerned.
Okay.
The data transparency has been put out for public comments. They're going to be out for public comment from September 26th through October 26th for the data transparency module that came from our policy and oversight division. In addition to that, the disciplinary matrix is out for public commentary. It has also been sent to RPD as well as the Locust Club for their commentary. And there have been focus groups set up for commentary in regards to the disciplinary matrix that is coming up in the next few weeks. Lastly, we did get approval for new hires for our senior community engagement specialist, 2 case managers, as well as an operations clerk. So those approvals have gone through, and interviews regarding some of these candidates have been set up. And hopefully we'll have those positions filled fairly quickly.
Oh, that is great news. We're happy that happened, and it's a continuation of the work that needs to happen with getting those positions filled. The process, again, we're not happy with having to go through this process, which we're in continuing conversations with council about, but are appreciative of this approval happening and getting these important positions filled. Thanks for that update, Dwayne.
Thank you.
Oh, was that the last thing?
Yes, I'm sorry that I said lastly the new hires. So.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was lastly for that. All right. Usually, we have any questions for Dwayne on any of the updated items. I did have one question in regards to the police, the working with the law department. This is an old business, but I'll just bring it up now. In regards to the, getting the information access, still underneath the charter, it says we should have direct access. We still don't have that as of now, right? To the data that's required underneath the charter. I know before there was, an officer assigned to kind of help with this work.
Yes.
We should have immediate turnarounds on that, I believe, just, which is what we would have. We should have immediate turnarounds because we have the access ourselves, which we don't have. What has been the turnaround time and what is the staff's impression of the getting the data quickly enough back that's been requested for us to continue and start the investigation that the public is expecting us to work on?
The last two batches of information that were received came over quite some time after the requests were made. In full transparency, when the initial requests were made, the liaison or the appointed liaison was not in his position when the initial requests were made. But with the second request that was made, he was shortly within the position. It still took a fairly long time in order to receive the information, and it took several weeks in order to receive that information. And the process that was explained initially in our meeting was that we would put in a request, a source of information request. The liaison would gather the necessary information. We would obviously provide them with notification of an investigation as well. But they would gather the necessary information and then upload that to a shared link, shared documents, shared file that we have with RPD, and that it would be done in a relatively quick fashion. However, the actual process as it stands right now is that we make the request, the liaison gathers that information that we have requested to the best of his ability, but then it's sent over to the law department for analysis prior to them releasing it to us. That's not something that was ever discussed in any of our meetings with RPD as far as the law department signing off on the data that was collected by the RPD, nor should it be.
Ms. Brown.
Yes, what steps can we take to rectify that? Because if the information we requested goes through the law department first, how do we know for sure that we're getting everything that RPD sent over? Or if some of the things have been either redacted or changed instead of us having direct access?
Cool. So we have updated our source of information request forms to call on RPD to notate why the information was not turned over to us for each document that we are requesting. So they have to provide an explanation as to why we are not receiving that document. And that explanation ranges, but we want to try to keep track of the rationale that they're providing as to why they're not turning over the information beyond the fact that if they don't have the information.
Can you explain a bit just for the public, where we see, as the agency, some of that conflict with the law department, kind of having a decision-making, considering some of the responsibilities of the law department in regards to us, having requests of certain information for investigations?
Obviously, we feel as though there's a huge conflict of interest when it comes to the law department acting as arbiters to decide what information we receive or not. We are a city agency with city employees. Even though the board are made up of community leaders and activists, And in that, the law department actually represents disputes that arise against PAB. And if they're representing both PAB and dispute that arise, as well as representing the police department, there's a conflict when we're asking for information and they're withholding that information or deeming it inappropriate to transfer to us.
Matthew, did you have a hand up or is that just moving? No, okay. Any other questions for follow-ups from Mr. Bosco? All right, thanks, Dwayne.
All right, thank you.
Yep. We have my chair's report, then we'll do committee reports after that. So first thing, I will say in regards to the chair report, you know, today, I think if you, I'm assuming everybody watching this, if you haven't seen that, today the city settled with Daniel Prude's family for $12 million. That settlement happened today because of the wrongdoing and well, the settlement says it, you know, of what happened and what went wrong and the consequences of that, besides the damage done to the city and our community, is now $12 million that rightfully is going to the family of Daniel Prude. There's been talk of police accountability boards and something that we have now for many years or earlier versions of it, but that tragedy that happened led to actions, protests, legislation, many hours and days of work and activism and collaboration to create our police accountability board. And it's an important reminder of that settlement happening today, that we don't want that to ever happen again in our community. There should never be another example of a family having to be compensated for the loss of a loved one. And the community believes that. And that's one of the many reasons that the community voted for and helped fight for our police accountability board. And I think it's a sad but powerful reminder to all of us that are board members, that are staff, and that are supporters in the community of the PAB, that the work we are doing is really, really vital. And the work that we are doing has to continue. And the work that we are doing has to be done. And the work that the community is expecting us to do and is reminded of today needs to happen. And one of the ways that, you know, I felt after the week that we've had within the PAB and seeing that reminder today was a focus, you know, a focus on the board and all of the staff, making sure that we are recommitted to doing the work of the public. That's why they voted overwhelmingly for our police accountability board. That's why every board member here and previous board members made the commitment to be a board member. That's why city council members voted for it. And that's why the many staff members we have that have applied for and have been hired to work at the PAB came to do this work. You know, largely in part because of the mission given to us after we found out what happened to Daniel Prude. So as we continue to do this work, as we continue to improve as a community, and as we as a PAB find ways quickly and in unison and with great communication to improve what we are doing to serve the community, I want to make sure going forward and being reminded by today that our work needs to happen. The community needs us to work together. The community is expecting us to do that, and we have to, and we will find a way to do that. And everybody, I believe, that is an employee and as a board member and as a supporter out there believes in that. And hopefully we all are recommitted to that, especially after the settlement today. And that is my #1 priority as board chair today and going forward, and the conversations we'll be having as a staff and as a board going forward, and with support and suggestions from our allies to help make that happen. But this is very serious business. This is a very serious time that we're in, even in our country. And we've just been reminded, and not that people necessarily need to be reminded, but we just got reminded of, again today, the importance of what we are in a position to change. And as we go forward with our work, and as we go forward with conversations, and as we go forward with actions, I just want to make sure that we all are keeping that at the forefront. That's what the community wants. That's what people that are not watching this meeting, that don't know this meeting exists, but they know they want change in the community to happen, that's what they're expecting. And we need to make sure that we keep that as our focus going forward. And I'm committed to do that, and anybody else is committed to doing that. Let's continue and let's improve on doing that together. So also in regards to our internal investigation, in regards to our acting, right now we still have our acting manager, our executive director with the investigation in regards to him, that is still ongoing. Obviously still a legal matter, so we can't talk much about that. But the latest update that I can speak generally about is that we're even closer to conclusion of that investigation. The last updates, I think I gave it the last board meeting. I also mentioned that we were very much to the end, and we are even much, that much closer to the end. Where before we were months away, and didn't actually at the beginning we didn't have a time frame, and then it was going to be months away. My impression is that we are much more closer than months away of that concluding. Not an exact date, not an exact time, but obviously when we have that report released, there will be work that's to be done by this board and the community in regards to replying to that, but that hasn't happened yet. But we are getting the last update that it is getting much closer to conclusion. Not something that we have control over as a board, and not something that we are interfering with as a board, but this is something that I did want to update the community in general terms and where we are with that, our understanding of that investigation. Any questions before I move on to, yes, Dr. Harrison.
Larry, just clarify for me the rationale that allows you to know that we're closer to the end of the investigation, but we can't know that we're close to the end of the investigation.
Well, I mean, I did let everybody know that we're close to the end, but I think there's some more detail.
The way you say it, you know more than we do.
Right. So the agreement that we have with the city council that we negotiated with them was that the update, like when the investigation was, we voted on, putting our executive director on leave, and then there was an investigation that been paid for by the city. The board, with our independence, it was very much concerned, and this is a discussion that we had about making sure that we, are not behind city council, city government, and understanding what's going on with the investigation. Obviously, we can't interfere with. We wouldn't interfere with it, and we won't. But we do want updates and knowing whatever city government, as in regards to council, knows that we should know at the same time. So the agreement that we got into and that we talked about with council and as a board was 3 board members and 3 council members would be in a email chain with investigators, and we get the same updates at the same time. So there wouldn't be anybody knowing anything beforehand. We wouldn't have to ask council, what have you heard? We wouldn't, because this is an investigation that we are, we'll be making ultimate determinations on. So when we get, but those updates are, confidential and legal. And they're not much more detailed than what I say. I mean, and I do have to be, I have to be cognizant of talking about legal matters publicly, but I think it's important for transparency that people have an idea that the investigation is progressing. What I didn't want to do was each time somebody asked about the investigation, I was just going to say it's ongoing and then leave it at that. The community should know more in regards to that it was moving along at whatever pace it was. So what I report out is just, kind of a distilled version of the updates that we get in regards to, how much progress the investigation has made. And that progress is only in time. It's nothing about findings or anything else. It's just
But
time.
tell me again what role council has in this.
Well, they're the ones that hired the investigator. So they, and the money, it's taxpayer money that's paying for it. So,
But what's council's role?
once the investigation is completed, council doesn't have a role. We have a role as a board to determine, our actions out of the report.
So council's only role is to pay for the investigation?
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah.
We're paying, no, we're paying for the
yeah,
investigation.
they appropriated, but it's coming out of our budget, which is another conversation. But council doesn't have a role in dictating our actions out of the investigation, or when the report comes down.
But there's three of them and three of you
Getting updates. Yes.
What are they doing?
We're just getting informed. I mean,
if it's our money, it's
Yeah.
our money. You're saying that it's our decision. So
Yes.
what's council's role?
Council's role is just getting updated. I mean, they hired the investigators, so they're getting updated on the progress of the investigation, just as we are. When the investigation is done, I mean, it's our job as a board to, and the investigation will happen with recommendations in it, will be part of the report, as well as explanation of events. It'll be our job as a board, not council's, not anybody else, to decide the actions that come out of that.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem. Ms. Tucker.
It was just I just wanted to comment on council's role. Initially, when the investigation first started, they were able, sorry, that's my dog. I think it was negotiated to a point to where they will receive. Okay, never mind. He won't be quiet. You see another dog, so now he's barking. Yeah, they do receive something they receive the report at the end of the investigation, but they don't have the power to determine anything. That's basically what was negotiated at the beginning of the investigation.
Yes, right. And there will be some kind of public version of the report released, and we'll work with council on redacting personnel things, because there is, human resource and personnel matters that wouldn't be public. But there is, in regards to transparency, portions of that, or some version of that will be released, and we'll work, to be as transparent as we can. But, still protecting, people's privacy in regards to what's in that report. But yeah, regarding to what comes out of it, in regards to decisions, that's entirely up to the PAB. Right. Daniel, your hand's still up. I'm assuming you're good. Or do you have another one? Okay. Any other questions for me before we move on? All right, committee reports. What's new with training?
So I can't remember if I discussed this last time, but I've met with John Pavlik of CSSI, who does training for the agency in general. And the agency is currently reworking the contract with them. So we're working on a schedule. They're going to provide some of the trainings and find other people to do others, but basically we went through sort of the whole list of required trainings that we've not yet completed to get them scheduled, and I'll stay posted for that one. And we're also going to be scheduling our final training with SMK concerning the closing, how we close reports, basically. So, but I don't have information yet about specific dates.
Okay. Thank you. And sorry, do I just go back to, I know you mentioned a bit, but it's because we're about trainings. Can you just go a little bit more detail about the trainings the staff has been doing? with you know, just with the RPD, just to give people a little bit, delve a little bit more into that, because I think I think they've happened maybe since the last staff meeting, or we're happening just as that was happening, just as those were, just to give the public an update.
Sure. So the first set of training went over the history of policing in Rochester, or the organization of RPD, the functioning of each officer at each level, recruitment, as well as the hiring practices. So we went through those instructions of the first module. The second module dealt with domestic violence. It went through the issue reports. It went through de-escalation training, as well as defensive tactics.
Do you know what the next training topic is that the staff will be going through?
I'll have to take a look at that. I don't know offhand, but I believe it's dealing with the PRISM, if it's available, in regards to shooting of the gun. And so, go ahead.
Marina?
I have that information. Next training is, yes, with regard to PRISM, emotionally disturbed persons, traffic stops, and firearms safety and less lethal options.
Thanks, Marina. Thank you, Dwayne. So yeah, that's something that is in the charter, that, you know, those trainings are required. Took a while, but we're glad they are finally happening. And I know pretty much majority of our staff have been attending them, and yep, those are ongoing. Thank you. Any other committee reports? I'm sorry, questions for Rabbi Settle? I moved on to Dwayne with the same. If there are any other follow-ups to Rabbi Settle for her report? Oh, okay. Old business, we kind of already mentioned information access. Just again, the charter is pretty explicit, and us needing to have it, and you know, we'll continue to discuss how we're going to get that. Case closures, I don't think we have any. We didn't get anything in advance yet. We're still waiting to be able to finish our investigations. Any other new business or old business? All right. I'd like to make a motion to move into executive session to discuss personnel issues.
Just one quick correction, based upon open meetings law. We have to stipulate that the reason for going into executive session is for dealing with a specific employee, a specific individual. We don't have to provide their names, but it has to be stated that it's for a specific individual concerning their hiring, termination, or any other type of disciplinary matters that should not be made public and should be discussed within executive session.
Yeah, will be, executive session for, you know, specific conversation, and also some individuals, and also because we've brought this up in others, that's in other executive sessions, it may also come up with potential litigation. That's kind of been a standing conversation we've been having in regards to potential litigation we may, as a board, decide to take. So those are the two potential topics of executive session. Thank you for the clarification, Dwayne, and Marina, if we can move into executive session. I mean, if you could hang around for the beginning of executive session, that'd be great.
Sure. All right.
Well, first, you have to take the vote.
Oh, take the vote. I'm sorry, I didn't take the vote.
Yeah, that's
My bad. I'll motion with executive session.
do we have a second?
I think Dr. Harrison put his hand up first.
Okay. All in favor? I see Harrison, Knox, Harvey, Brown. I think I saw Cadet, Nikoloff. I saw Settle and Tucker. Motion is unanimous. So I will stop the live stream.
No, it's not. You did not see Settle.
Oh, I'm so sorry. How do you vote, Rabbi?
I don't know.
Okay. So that motion passes 6-1. With Rabbi voting no, and I will end the executive session, and we will return once it's completed.
Wait, I think that might be 7-1.
Oh, 7-1, sorry about that. Okay.
If everybody here still right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah.
Now, once we go into executive session and we have who's going to be the co-host